Good morning, everybody. Sometimes I'm thinking that I sleep too long. I don't know how much sleep do you need, but you showed us what a huge, amazing work. I'm wondering what are you eating and what is your energy. So I just can say I think everybody is thinking this is really admiring. Thank you very much. And due to your enormous effort, all of us here, and Professor Barzo as well, we are here, and thank you very much for the invitation. So my presentation will be a general one, a little bit brainstorming about the best interests of the child in art technologies. So we can later discuss and in deep and see how it is in each country. When we talk about assisted reproductive technologies, we talk about human rights generally, human rights of beneficiaries who can approach to art, about children's rights, what is the effect of legal regulation to children's rights, about public policies and order public, because we know that because of cross-country, cross-border movement, sometimes order public is endangered in the country where nationals whose nationals are beneficiaries of art in another country. And we can talk about donors' interests. This is especially modern right now because donor anonymity is going to be waived, as we shall see. This is also new recommendation is coming from the Council of Europe, and I'm very proud to be one of members of this draft group. It's a brand new recommendation on donors' non-anonymity, in fact. And we'll see what is going to happen in 2 years. So when we talk about human rights, we talk about access to art. And these are human rights of intended parents, their right to health. Talking about their reproductive rights, it's quite broad concept and not very clear as well, because art can be used for health reasons. If somebody can't achieve, if a couple, not somebody, but a couple can't achieve pregnancy in a year, then we talk about some reproductive issues they experience. We talk about expenses covered by health insurance, in sense that these technologies are sometimes extremely expensive. So it is also the question of health insurance and social policies, who will pay for this. And I can tell you that before 3 weeks we had a meeting in the Ministry of Health in Croatia, because our new established Ministry of Demography recognized assisted reproduction technologies and medically assisted reproduction in broader sense as a way to increase the number of children. In demography sense, it's a nonsense. We heard this last year here. But nevertheless, in this very moment, this is like this, because only 5% of children are born out of as a result of medically assisted reproduction. But in future, I think this number will increase due to different influences, because the reproductive health is going to get worsen. And I think this is, although this is in this moment not very good argument, in a couple of decades it will be very important one, and I think it's a good moment now to establish a value system to talk about this, and not when the pressure will be high. It's the question of informed consent, something that we don't talk at all, in fact, because patients come, they want a child, and they can't form informed consent. And this has also consequences on the rights of the child later, because it's not that all these questions are not the rights of intended parents, but they are reflected also later on the rights of the child. And this informed consent has some medical aspect. It's quite simple in a way right now. If we are honest to our patients as physicians, then legal family law aspects, it's quite simple as well. But not so much, because there are so many now commercial DNA databases. So if we promise parents that if they use heterologous techniques, it will remain a secret. This is not the true anymore, because people provide their DNA to commercial databases, and this number has exponential is more and more. It's now counted in millions, and this secret will not remain secret anymore, maybe in 10 years or later. So what is informed consent? This is for this very moment, but they don't, of course, talk about perspectives. And it also has children's rights aspects and also health risks. For example, some municipalities in Croatia would like to pay for more cycles, provoked cycles, but they are not aware, politicians are not aware that it is endangering women's health. So if they use more cycles and women are ready to sacrifice and to take a risk, they are more prone to get cancer later or some other diseases. So right now in Croatia, 4th cycles are paid by health insurance. That's quite a lot. And our physicians say more would be a risk for women's health. And it's also part of informed consent as well. And therefore it's important to have possibility to protect women to cryopreserve their egg cells and embryos as well. And possibility to cryopreserve gametes. And we also have this legal and ethical question: what is the beginning of life? Every human being has right to life, and we all know that human person begins from the moment the child has been born, unless it is not nasciturus rule. And this is also sometimes the problem because of cryopreserved gametes. We have, I think, 10 or 12,000 of them as embryos, as far as they confess, cryopreserved, and even intended parents are not allowed to give the order to destroy them. Right now there is a pending cases about this problem, because our law is not clear enough, because it's right more in pro-life way, and it's not mentioned. This terrible word "destroy" is not used. They use gametes are going to be preserved up to 5 years under health insurance costs, and later under intended parents' costs. And there is nothing about what will happen if they stop to pay. So some parents, intended parents, want to destroy, and clinics are not don't dare to do this, because because there is a huge opponents from Catholic Church, so children are killed. And it's also the question of using terms, of course, as well. It has also some values. So it's a pending issue. They pay electricity for fridges, and it's not so expensive. There is also non-discrimination question, also reflecting to children, because like in adoption, in art proceedings, the state is responsible for the well-being of the child, and the state is responsible who will raise the child as well. And how complicated this can be. This is from one article. These technological innovations have helped heterosexual couples, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and two-spirit LGBTQ2S+ parents and single parents. So in Croatia right now, only a single woman who is not able to procreate, who has health issues, can ask for help. It is, if you read some reports from Australia, they would say it's a human right of intended parents and full stop. But is it? It's up to a system of values, of course. This is a question of age. We have in our act capacity for exercising parental responsibility, and we had some requests from very old man who was 70 and something to transfer his sperm to Czech Republic. Then we asked, that means National Committee for Commission for Medically Assisted Reproduction, if he has a partner, because in Croatia is not allowed to use surrogacy, and it was obvious that he would try to use some surrogate mother to give birth to his child, and then if the child will have a possibility to know his or her origin. And we had very a case when two couples, when a couple, he was a film director who was over 70, and his wife, who was 57, had chance to become parents. She had obviously frozen eggs, or it was donation of eggs somewhere abroad. They were very famous. And they died when these twins were less than 10. And if you have a chance, if you have some guests, theater from Croatia, it's a drama, Wax People, very popular in Croatia, talking about this wish to become a parent against the interests of the child. And it's also the question of race, possibility to choose a donor, and so on and so on. So beneficiaries also have right to privacy toward third parties and their children. As I said, some rights are important for children as well. And it is also the problem who is the ownership of who has the ownership of gametes or embryos. It's quite an interesting legal question, because we know that you can't own the part of human body. It's also an interesting question because we had a criminal law case, where a very distinguished professor, a physician, stole eggs from some ladies and used them for conception of children, and didn't tell these mothers what he did. And after a couple of years, they found out what happened and didn't want to contest, of course, maternity. They didn't give consent, but they made social bond and emotional to children. And he was not convicted, because in that time, gametes were not concerned to be as a part of human body. It was the main argument why he was liberated. He was so famous that he was received by Pope and very, very popular before. But you see what can happen. As Lila will have later her presentation on children's rights as well, I will try to shorten this part, but just to point out some questions. There are different categories of children here, because we have intended children, and it comes to social policy and legal policy, whom we allow to be born, and by whom, who will be the parents. So who are beneficiaries of art, what are acceptable technologies, and what about donors? It's art regulation in a way. Then we have embryos and conceived but not already born children. I said children because it's also a legal question. We know the answer that they are not human beings in this sense unless there is nasciturus. But we also have some rules that protect also embryos in Germany as well, that we consider to be a modern country. Then we have minor children who have some limited rights, especially concerning the right to know origin. And persons conceived by art, they are also called children. And also nowadays they are organized in NGOs and they request their rights and start lawsuits. So these are rights overlapping and different interests. So this will explain Lila a little bit later. But maybe we could rather say children's rights secured before art. This is dignity of human being. We have Oviedo Convention that doesn't allow experiments on on embryos, and they make a difference between pre-embryos. That means 14 days after conception, and embryos later, so there are different levels of protection. Right to be cared for by parents, choice of parents, health of prospective child. What we are allowed to do before, that means genetic screening, it is not a normal part, and European Society for Human Reproduction sets standards. And choice of embryos to be preserved and transferred. And it is also another not so easy question about eugenic. So if we say that all human beings are equal, and if we have convention on the rights of people with disabilities, at the other hand, we have some choice. We have some right to choose which embryo is going to be born and which not. And when I'm talking to embryologists, I always ask, how do you feel when you choose embryos? These will live. These will be cryopreserved. These will have possibility to live, better to say, and this one will be destroyed at the very beginning. And reduce of the multiple delivery rate per embryo transfer. It was a huge problem before because there were multiple pregnancies, and at the very beginning it was not easy to keep these children healthy later because they were born underweight and so on. Also, it's the problem of traceability of gametes and embryos, and we have new social regulation in European Union that requests that if there is a cross-border use or inside one country, traceability in the sense that you can follow where this genetic material is going from one clinic to another should be kept, and this is important for non-anonymity. And more from Lila. Protection of nasciturus, as I said, we have different stages of development of unborn child, and it is the protection of dignity. So you are not allowed to make experiments, or you are not allowed to, in fact you are allowed, but you are not allowed in some countries to make embryos for the purpose to make experiments on them. So there is a slight difference between formulation of techniques. Also, it's generally forbidden to use sex of the child unless some illness is connected to the genes. For example, schizophrenia the carrier of schizophrenia is X gene, just mother's gene, not Y. So if you have some dangers in parental genealogy, then you try to avoid this gene, and there is also for some other diseases. Prohibition of cloning of human beings, and this embryo still does not have status of a person, but it may be, if the child will be born, it will have, and then it's also the problem of protection of rights. Children's rights are multiple: dignity, the right to health, selection of prospective embryos, the right to non-discrimination. We have Catholic Bishop Commission, Justitia at Pax, also in other European countries. And when I was a part, there was a member of it. There was a proclamation that child is not a thing, but a donor, but a gift. Sorry. So it's quite hard terminology, and I insisted that this proclamation begins that every child has equal rights as any other, and that children should not be discriminated. If they are born, it's not, even if it's not acceptable for some system of values, every child has same rights, and I think it's not very nice to talk like this. The right of child to know and be cared for or by his or her parents, the right to an identity, appropriate guidance in the exercise of rights. It's very important because many of children does not know how they are conceived. So even in this, as I said last time, in this recommendation from 2019, it's a statement that state should inform a child on circumstances of conception in case of donation of gametes. So can you imagine? Hello, happy birthday. Do you know who is your real biological parent? So it's not so easy. And protection from all forms of abuse, neglect, violence, and exploitation, including trafficking, closely connected sometimes to surrogacy, sometimes, and including using art for other purposes than to found a family. I found really scientific articles that stated that some children are conceived for the purpose for organ trafficking. I didn't find any proofs. They just talk like this. I'm not aware of any proceedings, criminal proceedings, but I wouldn't be surprised because human nature is sometimes difficult. Surrogacy is a special part of this problem, especially just to mention generally that the European Court of Human Rights in a way made legalization of parent-child relationship, although it's not allowed in national country. They protect the rights of the child. And in this way, they put green light. So go, and you will. Although you break your national laws, you will have chance, and you should have chance to establish child-parental relationship. Now, Italy, I don't know if you know, has put a new criminal act, surrogacy, using surrogacy, and it's a tough approach to this question from the standpoint of the state and the protection of national system of values. There is, of course, very sensitive difference, protection of intended child, like a general prevention, and protection of a born child. That is completely different, and there is a clash of also interests in a way. So we are approaching to the end slowly. Sorry for coming the time, for using your time, over 20 minutes. So public policies and legal frame should take everything into account. And this is really difficult because we all live in pluralistic societies, and it's almost impossible to say that we all have same system of values. Is the question of political power in a parliament, how art will be regulated. Right now we have a rather strong pressure that every woman has the right to use art. Nevertheless, if she has social reasons for infertility or medical reasons, and this is also in discrimination toward men, and so we come from one circle, from one spiral to another, and it's difficult to stop. I think art should be socially sensitive, not reserved only for rich individuals. It's a social justice. Prevention of trafficking of children and women, of course, because as you know, women are, especially in surrogacy cases, are exploited and often close even to some kind of slavery, and it's also a very difficult question. Some authors state that art policies continue to promote ideals of genetic relatedness and couple them as the basis for the creation of families. I'm not sure that is still true, because there are so many differences you can find. It's a huge state problem of cross-border movement and differences in regulation, and impossible to make legal systems that will be for the whole European Union. Now we have some tries for directives for the establishment, for recognition of parenthood from one country to another, and in fact this breaks national laws to dust. This order public is weakened and weakened. Everything is balancing of human rights, and we can see this balancing is influenced by different interests. I forgot to say at the very beginning, and doctors don't like me because they go to conferences, because it's a big money behind this. And we always have to be aware. As a person, I'm always ready to help, because I see an individual who tries to be a parent. But in the other hand, influences of big pharma are enormous, and they are counted in billions, and it's not so honest it seems to be very often. This was for the very beginning of today's conference, just an overview. And I'm sure that we are going to read so many things in our books and our chapters. So thank you very much for your attention.